Once more, one of the oral history recordings for the State Archives in Frankfurt, for the Pogue Library Oral History Collection at Murray State University, and for the Marshall County Library. That part of the production paid for by WCBL Radio and Shelby McCallum. We're visiting in the home today of Miss Clemmie Park, and that's 806 Elm Street here in Benton. Miss Park, sometimes they say that ladies don't like to be asked their age, but I'm going to ask you, do you care for telling us?
I don't mind it a bit. I'm glad I've been here. If I live another month, I'll be 80 years old.
Well, that's a delightful age. It seems to you've worn very well, and you certainly don't look anything like that old. Were you born in Marshall County?
Yes, out east of here, about 5 miles, yes.
About 5 miles east. That would be out toward Fair Dealing?
Not exactly. It was a little further. Well, I don't know how far you go.
Was it sort of toward old Birmingham?
Yeah, more
Uh-huh.
between the Fair Dealing and Birmingham Road. Out there in a little dry spot in the field.
All right, could you tell us who your parents were?
My father's name was A.T. Tatum, Alfred Thomas.
What about Tatumsville?
Well, that was named for his brother.
His brother.
Yeah.
It is same family, though, then. Your
Yeah.
uncle.
Yeah. But
Now, who was your mother?
she was a Clark.
Uh-huh.
She was Margaret Ann Clark.
Do you remember either of your grandparents' names on the father or mother side, or both?
I remember all of them.
Well, let's just start off with Dad, I guess.
Well, my dad's father was named Alfred C. Tatum. He'd been dead a long time. I never knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife was named Margaret. Well, she had another name, but I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
She had the same name my mama had.
Well, that's all right. You can...
That was her business.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And on your mother's side, there were Clarks.
And there's Clark's.
Uh-huh.
My grandfather Clark was James Riley. And my grandmother was Rachel Elizabeth.
And now, do you know enough about genealogy, or have you traced it out to know if where they came from to Marshall County? Was it Virginia, North Carolina?
Yes. I was a child and lived with my mother, and we had a far side, and she talked about olden times, what her grandmother told her.
Well, I hope you can remember some of those stories. They should be interesting.
I told a friend of mine that's interested in this genealogy business what my mother told me, that her grandmother said that they come from North Carolina. And well, that was her grandmother told her that. I don't know too much about that. She lived close to her grandfather Clark, and they come from South Carolina. I don't know just where she got that, but she told me about the Clarks are coming from South Carolina.
What were some of those stories? Did they see bears or things of that kind?
I told this lady about this, and one day she approached me and she wanted me to make a note of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and she went to the record. She found it as just like I said, only she had some dates on it.
Mm-hmm.
When they was born to North Carolina and South Carolina, she found that out, and I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Proved to be exactly, though, the way you'd heard it orally.
Yeah.
And
I said, If there'd have been any other children there, we wouldn't have listened that Mom was talking. And if we'd have had a phonograph or a radio or TV, and we didn't have either one of them, so we didn't hear any of it. Only Mom was telling it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as far as my Clark family come, they come from South Carolina. They was 3 boys and 3 girls. And they had an uncle named Jadar. I don't know whether he was a Clark or not. Now, I don't know where he's buried. He's not buried where the rest of the Clarks are, so I don't know. He might have went back to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he disposed of their property in South Carolina and brought them to Kentucky. They were orphan children. And they was 3 boys and 3 girls. And my great-grandfather happened to be one of the boys. And the 3 girls, one of them married a Belcher, and the other 2 married Fords. And all these Fords that's buried over here in this Ford graveyard are some of that bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And the other Ford lady lived up here, well, I reckon right where the Methodist Church is.
Yes, sir.
And she had 1 daughter, and she married a Dacus. And she had a little baby and died when it was born. And they named it Walter Greenville. Her name was Greenville.
Yes, sir. Well, those are very interesting stories. Could you tell us where you went to school?
Well, over here close to where I was born was a little 1-room school building. Fact of the business, I didn't know there was any other kind of schools, only 1-room school buildings. Except I'd come to Benton sometime and I see a great big building over here on the hill.
Yeah.
And that's where the Benton children went to school. But I didn't go there.
What was the name of this school?
Clark.
It was Clark School. Well,
Yeah.
it was named after some of your mother's family then.
Yeah, it was built on her uncle's farm.
Do you remember any of your teachers?
Well, Ruby Harrison, Love, is the only one that's a living.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had George Smith, Minnie Ross. Minnie Ross was my first one, and George Smith was my second one. And Frank Henson was my 3rd and 4th one. And Ethel Henson was my 5th one. And I may have swapped them up, I don't know.
I think you've done a lot better than I could do. But that's...
Well, anyway, then George Smith again. And then Meta Colley a couple of years.
What was your favorite subject in school, Miss Park?
Arithmetic.
Well, I'm just the opposite. I always disliked arithmetic and liked poetry, reading and so on, spelling.
Yeah.
Everyone to his own desires. Do you remember anything about, let's say the games you played at recess and before school and the lunch hour?
Well, we had ball games that smart. And, I don't know. We'd had a funny game. I don't reckon it had any name to it. Throw the ball over the house and...
Ante over?
Yeah. And then everybody run and everybody was going to get hit from the one that caught the ball. I don't know how. Ed Holly, he is one that is pretty sure hitter. Whenever he throwed the ball at you, you was pretty well shot. You was just pretty well hit.
Yeah. Did you have sweethearts back in those days?
Not much. They didn't take for me.
Well, did you have something like, say, pie suppers?
Yeah,
On Friday nights or some such time?
box suppers.
Box suppers.
Box suppers.
Tell us how they operated.
No, I don't much know. Hey, every girl would take a box of a supper box. I don't know what we had, and the boys bought it. And I don't know what they done with the money. I guess they started up the basketball games. It had to have some expense to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon that's where the money went to.
Yeah, they bought balls and uniforms and odds and ends and certain things for the school library, I guess.
No, we didn't have no library.
Oh, you didn't have a regular library, but you always had a dictionary and a few books,
No, we
didn't you?
didn't have that.
Well,
We just had what our parents bought for us.
mm-hmm.
A reader and a spelling book and a grammar.
Did you go back as far as McGuffey's readers?
Yeah.
William Holmes McGuffey was quite a... All right, were you married?
No, I didn't marry till I was 38.
And your husband's name was
Claude Park.
Claude Park.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any children?
No,
Did not have any children.
no.
And what did you do to earn a living?
Well, in Mama's lifetime, and she died when I was 27, we didn't do much of anything. Worked all the time too, I reckon.
Did you live on a farm?
Yeah.
Well, there's always something to do on a farm.
Yes, but we wasn't the farmers.
Uh-huh.
We rented the farm out. We had a hard time
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't manage right.
Well, did you piece any quilts?
Piece quilts, wool carpets. We kept a carpet on our floors.
Now, that's the first time I've heard in all the interviews I've been doing around Marshall County, you're the first one that's ever said they ever made a carpet. Was that pretty hard work?
Well, it is a continuous work.
Did you have a loom?
Yes. Well, Mama she could string out 10 yards a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't guess I ever could have.
I've seen my mother crochet, or they'd have hooked kind of an old round rug made out of rags or something, but you're not talking about that, are you?
No, not. Now, I'm afraid this is a long-distance call.
All right, just a minute. And now we're continuing our interview with Miss Clemmie Park here in Benton, Kentucky. Could you tell us what your husband did?
Well, he was a farmer when we married, but we sold the farm 5 years later and moved to town, and he just picked up work, whatever he could do.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for the electric company a while, and just things like that.
Did you ever learn to make carpets like your mother did?
I knew how it was done, and I believe I could make one now if I just had all the material.
Uh-huh. Were they made out of wool?
No, they just made out of rags,
Mm-hmm.
dresses, and I think now that this double knit stuff is so much better than what we had when we did make them. I just think, well, wouldn't they make them pretty ones now? But where would you make them?
Well, could you tell us a little bit about Benton when you were small? Well, do you remember some of the stores that were here?
Well, we had a H.P. McElrath store. They sold materials and hats and gentlemen's clothing. I don't know. I guess most anything anybody wants. Lived out in the country.
Yeah.
They didn't sell groceries and stuff. And we had Joe Brandon's store. He sold groceries. And
McElrath is one, and then Joe Brandon is another.
And Roy Griffey was another one. He had a store sort of like McElrath. He had hats and he had some dresses. I don't know whether McElrath did or not.
Did you, when you lived on the farm, did you have chickens?
Yeah.
What was your favorite, Rhode Island Reds or Barred Rocks or?
No, we raised white leghorns.
What? Oh, you went for the eggs.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, they're still pretty good fryers anyway, though,
Yeah.
weren't they? But they're not
Yeah.
as large as some of the other chickens, and they had white eggs. I like that, don't you?
You know, I never did use the shells.
You didn't?
It didn't ever make any difference to me what color the shell was.
Well, that's strange, but you know, on the Chicago Board of Trade, white eggs bring more than brown ones.
I know.
And what do you suppose? As you say, you never ate any shells in your life, but still the white eggs sell at a premium.
I never did understand why that.
Well, my mother would like brown leghorns. Now, they also had white eggs, but
Yeah. Well, there was white rocks and barred rocks.
did you ever see a Dominecker?
Now that's what's called a barred rock.
Yeah, okay. I see you know your chickens pretty well.
Well, we raised quite a few chickens. And we lived on the farm 5 years, and Claude just wasn't well enough to work on the farm to be like he had to work.
Did you do canning?
Yeah.
Canning. Tell us a little bit about canning then. You didn't just put it in a deep freeze and go off and forget it.
No, we didn't know nothing about a deep freeze. And I still don't. Still don't have a deep freeze.
Mm-hmm.
But
You knew about ball-perfect masons.
yes, and we canned and we canned and we canned, and I have canned them. Fill the cans, cold pack the cans, and put them in the wash kettle and cover them with water and build a fire around them and boil them 3 hours. That is a lot of fun.
Oh, my. Yeah, that cold pack hot water bath method was...
Usually, I think I throwed away most of mine after about 2 weeks afterwards. They began spewing at the top.
Oh, they didn't seal properly.
And then something happened.
Number of them spoiled. Well, home canned food can be very dangerous. You know, if you get botulism, that's about the end of you.
Well, I lived through it.
Did you ever live anywhere besides Marshall County? Did you go to Detroit during the Depression like some people did?
No. Well, when we got kindly hard up for work, we went to Detroit and stayed a little while, but we didn't have any success up there either. But after my mother died, I had a sister, half-sister, that lived in New Mexico. And I went out there And in less than 2 weeks' time, I'd got a job with a school professor and his wife to keep house for them and take care of their children. His wife was going into the schoolroom too, and she had a little tiny baby. So I took the children. She had a little boy nearly 3 years old, and I stayed with them 3 years. And I guess I can say that is the most joyful time of my life, loving those children.
Uh-huh. And did you like the atmosphere in New Mexico?
Yeah. I like the people I worked for.
Air's dry out there.
Yeah. And we never throwed away any cold bread. We just, the biscuits is left over, the cornbread, we put it in a sack, and we'd make dressing with and things, and sometimes bread puddings with the cold biscuits.
My dad loved those things. He called them poor man's pudding.
Yeah, I know when
they were sweetened and somewhat like cake or pie.
Kindly made a custard like and poured it over.
Yeah.
Well, you see, they didn't mold out there like they do here.
No.
And I could just save them for several days. And they'd get hard enough to kill somebody with you, hit them just right.
That reminds me of an old song we used to sing about the biscuits in the Army. They say they're mighty fine, but one rolled off the table and killed a pal of mine.
Well,
there was a song we sang in World War II. I don't know if Shelby ever sang that song or not, but some of us did.
And whenever I was fixing to leave there, Mrs. Hartrick said to me, says, I want to know how you make that bread pudding. Says, I want that.
You had to give her the recipe then before you were allowed to leave.
Yeah. Well, I poured some hot water over these cold biscuits and salted them up some, and then I made this custard and poured it over them and put them in the oven and browned them a little bit, and that is all there was to it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you took the cornbread and you made dressing out of that.
Yes.
As like stuffing for turkey or chicken?
Yeah,
chicken dressing.
Chickens, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I never cooked a turkey for them, I don't reckon.
All right, what do you think about the things in life that have changed most that you recall since you were a girl?
Well, the expense of living.
The prices have risen just...
beyond my imagination.
Yes.
I say that I guess I get more money each month than my mother got the best year of her life. And it's all gone by the time the next month rolls around.
Yeah, the prices are so high that...
I don't know. I don't buy anything either.
Could you tell us anything about what you remember in growing up of say, home medical remedies, things you did to keep from getting sick or treating ailments that your parents and grandparents passed along?
Well, they had a recipe to make liniment. I said to Dr. Miller one time, I had a little ailment, and I said, I need some of that liniment like our grandmas used to make.
What do you think?
He says, put goose grease in it. Well, I don't know about the goose grease. I don't guess we did. We had geese, but that is to make our feather beds with.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't kill the geese and eat them, so we didn't have any grease out of the goose. So, but that's what he said. He said, put some goose grease in it.
Well, my great-grandmother used to have mustard and goose grease, and she'd rub that on your chest when you
Yeah.
had a cough, and they were afraid you might have pneumonia. And that's supposed to make you cough up all the phlegm and so forth.
I need some of that now.
Might be very helpful. Well, several people have mentioned to us that they warded off ailments by hanging a bag of asafoetida around their necks. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I never knew anything very interesting about it, but I heard my mama say that springtime come and she was a staying with her uncle, and when my sister was a baby, and this uncle had a grandbaby, and singing come along one day in the early spring. So they wanted to go. They hadn't been nowhere all winter, and they put this asafoetida around their necks, and they had a little cousin that didn't happen to have any asafoetida. So they'd let her chew on that asafoetida once in a while. And first thing you know, these two children, Mama's baby and her cousin's baby, had the whooping cough. And this other baby's daddy come over to see him, and they didn't know where in this world they'd got the whooping cough. And he said, well, you got it from our baby. Says our baby had the whooping cough that day at the singing.
So Benton's big singing...
It wasn't Benton big singing.
Oh, it wasn't, I see.
It was out here about fair dealing.
I thought maybe it was the fourth Sunday of May.
No, it wasn't that one. It was out here about fair dealing or Maple Spring or somewhere out there. And
Well, that asafoetida smelled something terrible. I remember smelling it.
I'm always laughed about that, about the children all having the whooping cough and chewing on that asafoetida.
I thought I'd done something when I learned to spell it. asafoetida. I can still remember that. But
I didn't learn to spell it.
well, I tell you, Miss Park, we've had a lot of fun. Do you think of anything else special you'd like to say before we close?
Well, talking about weaving carpets, my mother even wove jeans like men's clothes was made out of.
Yes, sir.
And I know how it's done. I made a few shoots at it, but I didn't make a deal of it.
Oh, Shelby, do you want to come on and ask your traditional closing question?
Yes, sir. We've always asked this final question, and that is very simple, and our time is about out. If you had your life to live over again, would you still prefer to live it in Marshall County?
Yes, in the last 80 years.
Well, you've given us the same answer that the other 22 people have. Thank you very much.
The last 80 years. I'd rather lived it 80 years back than 80 years from now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ms. Park, Shelby McCallum. I'm Ray Mofield, and we've been doing another oral history tape for the Marshall County Library for the State Archives in Frankfort and the Murray State University Pogue Oral History Library on the campus there. This has all been made possible by a grant from WCBL Radio. And that concludes our broadcast for today.